it loaded, keep it loaded, keep it loaded. Very nice, I'm looking at the camera. Very nice, good, good, good. Preloaders, V.I.Preloaders, welcome back to the channel, guys. Always a pleasure to have you guys here with me, and you know this by now, or at least you should. For those of you that have never been to this channel before, welcome to you as well. My name's Robert. I'm a retired NYPD Highway Patrol motorcycle lieutenant, and the name of this wonderful channel is Be the Boss of Your Motorcycle. All right, guys, so in this video, I was doing a private lesson with Stephanie. Stephanie's a V.I.Preloader from Colorado. I'm actually doing a practice session in Colorado, thanks to Stephanie. But anyway, during the private lesson, we did some recording for her, and the recordings that we did for her are private recordings, right? But she said, I want you to share this stuff because I know somebody else would benefit from it. She's just a great, great person. And so I threw her on the back of the bike, and we were actually just taking a break, and I was taking her to the restroom. She was on the back of the bike, and she decided, let me do some recording. And I talked to her about some stuff while I was on the bike, and I'm gonna share that with you guys. Just a different perspective of me explaining some of the things that I'm doing while I'm doing them, and I wanna share that with you guys. All right, check this out. So sometimes when people, I tell them to slowly release the clutch into the friction zone, because they're opening the clutch slowly, they feel falling right away, and that's why they put their foot back down. But again, if we address something as soon as we feel it, that's not an issue. But if you don't wanna feel that, open close. You know what open close is? The clutch a little bit quicker and then bring it back in. Not all the way in, just into a lower part of the friction zone. So, first gear, covering the rear brake. I'm gonna preload. So normally when I take off, my front suspension has very little movement because it's smooth. But if I wanna do it quicker, I'm gonna bring the clutch, instead of starting from all the way in, bring the clutch right before the friction zone. You hear that? Yes. You can hear when your bike is going in the friction zone because the power starts to go down, right there. So I'm going to be right before it. So if I need power, I'm right there. All right, clutch. See, that's all I need to do is get it to pick up. Preload, clutch, then pull it back in. I'm good. All right. I'm coming to a stop. Right now I got the clutch in, no power. Momentum's working out, but see, I can already feel it starting to get wonky. So, friction zone, hear the throttle up, friction zone, rear brake, rear brake, rear brake, rear brake. Smooth stop. If I don't use the friction zone, that stop's not gonna be smooth, right? Do that again.
Yes, and there's no front brake.
No front brake at all.
No front brake.
Not at that speed. That's how the bike goes down. I see gravel, I'm not gonna make a turn leaning. Straight up. Friction zone, rear brake, rear brake. Now I'm good. No brake, no clutch. Rear brake, rear brake, rear brake, rear brake, rear brake, rear brake. That time I didn't need the friction zone at all, right? It all depends on what's going on. Always gonna hear that throttle elevated if I'm doing anything slow speed. Elevated now, I got the clutch all the way in because I don't need it. Right before I'm gonna do something, reload, a little bit of clutch, and how much clutch do I need? It depends on what I'm feeling, what I'm doing. Friction zone, rear brake, rear brake, rear brake, rear brake, rear brake. Remember we talked about the coordination?
Yes.
So when you stop with the heel down, the step, I told you two ways, one like that or one with the heel down into a stop like that. What that does is that gives you timing. It helps out with your timing. You talked about coordination earlier. That's where the coordination comes in. So if I'm doing friction zone, rear brake, when my heel hits the floor,
that's when my right foot on the brake should be pressing down, and now they come down at the same time. That's what's gonna make it smooth and coordinated. Sometimes people stop, and then when they end, their foot's like this. And that's because they put their foot down too early, or they didn't apply enough pressure to the rear brake to actually bring the bike to a stop, right? Okay, so let's talk about some turning. We're not doing any turning yet, but we're gonna do this all while we're on the motorcycle together. First gear, covering the rear brake, preload, clutch, 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 good. No rear brake. So we don't need the rear brake for everything. I can put this on the highway peg. Now it's just clutch control. So if I find a good spot in the friction zone, I'm just gonna stay here. I can turn, doesn't matter. Clutch, clutch, keeping it loaded, keeping it loaded. Long as the power is sufficient, the bike is gonna keep doing what it's doing. The only thing that's gonna change is if I make a change with my hand, my throttle, or with the clutch. Right here, I'm in the friction zone. The reason why it's smooth is because I'm in the friction zone. If I just go to idle, we're on a downhill now, so we're okay. If I let the clutch out, that is no longer smooth. Do I want to make a U-turn like that? Especially if I got somebody I really care about on the back? No. Now my RPMs are up to 1080, 1050. As soon as I start to turn, now they go down. It's just low. Is it possible? Yes, but I don't want to take that risk. Because once we start leaning, lean equals risk. The more I lean, the more risk there is. If I preload it, friction zone. Now because we're operating in the slow 1 to 10 miles per hour, we're always in the friction zone. Because if the bike is at idle, like this, if I just give it throttle without the friction zone, that'll smooth it out. But now I'm going fast. I don't want to go fast. I want to be able to move slowly, but stay up. That's where the friction zone comes in. That's why so many people don't like riding slow, because they don't know how the friction zone is. But if I feel anything I don't like the way it feels, preload, clutch. You see my RPMs are not real high? It doesn't have to be real high. It just has to be sufficient for what's going on. All right, we're gonna talk about right turns, left turns from a stop. So as I'm approaching this turn, to make this turn straight up, this is what we did over there. That's an option for me, because I practice. Friction zone, friction zone, friction zone, rear brake. So right there, the bike felt like it was moving a little bit to the left when I put my foot down. That's because I got out of the friction zone too early. I felt that. I should be coming, when I stop, my bike should be straight up. Preload, rear brake, rear brake, rear brake. I'm using the rear brake. That's an example of stopping and staying in the friction zone at the same time. As I'm moving, I'm dragging the rear brake. And I'm doing that so that the bike will stay up. It will keep it true. Can I do it without the rear brake? Of course. It's not going to be as smooth though. All right, same turn, no rear brake. Clutch. Not as smooth and faster. Where with the rear brake, right now I'm dragging it, dragging it, dragging it, dragging it. In the friction zone, dragging the rear brake. I can come to a full stop. Trust and believe. All right, it's your turn. Let me put this bike in a good position. Straighten out, friction zone, rear brake. We don't stop with the handlebars turned. Good job, I need a videographer.
I know. Ta-da, here I am.